Hello, word nerds, and welcome to the dictionary. This is Spencer, and that's you, and this is the dictionary, and this is the show where Spencer talks about the words in the dictionary. Here we go. This is episode F62, or as some of you might like to hear, U62. This is also the beginning of page 462, which is kind of an interesting happening. Okay, anything to say? I don't know. I am just very pleased that you are here checking out this most wonderful of all podcasts. The first word in this episode is fermata. 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 Noun from circa 1859. This is a prolongation at the discretion of the performer of a musical note, chord, or rest beyond its given time value. Also, the sign, and then it shows a dot with a sort of a half circle over the dot, denoting such a prolongation. And it is called also just hold. That's it, just a hold. So at the discretion of the performer. So basically when a musical performer, a singer, somebody who's playing an instrument or something, when they see that sign, the dot with the arc over it, the like almost a half circle sitting on top of that dot, when they see that, they can hold that for as long as they feel necessary or as long as their body will let them. Prolongation of at the discretion of the performer. They're playing a note, they're playing a chord, or maybe they're resting. Maybe there's no music being played or performed, and they're like, I'm just going to rest a little bit longer. I'm going to take a little nap while this rest is going on. It's at my discretion. The etymology says that this is an Italian word, as most music terms are, and it literally means stop. Stop in the name of love. From fermare, which means to stop, from the Latin firmare, which means to make firm. I was almost going to say also means to stop, just because I was assuming, but I didn't finish reading it. It's to make firm. And when things are firm, they have stopped being soft. Sure. Fermata. I don't know if I ever knew this term. I played the saxophone way back in the day. I think I just knew it as a hold. That's probably it. Okay, my sound effect is going to be for no reason. Oh, actually, maybe I should do that one. Roar. The next word is Fermat's. Fermat's. Is it Fermat's? Fermat's last theorem. Okay, so it's three words. Last and theorem are the normal ways. And Fermat's looks like fermats, capital Fermat apostrophe S, but it says it's pronounced Fermat's, so I'm guessing that the T is silent. The T, the no T sound. Fermat's last theorem. It is a noun from 1847. It is a theorem in number theory. And then it tells me the theorem, which is the equation x to the n power plus y to the n power equals z to the n power. And it has no solutions when x, y, and z and n, x, y, z, and n are all positive integers, and n is greater than 2. So in those situations where x, y, z, and n are positive numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, 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 all the way up, not -1, -2, not those, the positive ones, and n is greater than 2, so most of the numbers for n, this theorem has no solutions. So it only works when n is 2, and then x, y, and z can all be positive numbers. 2 or 1, I guess. N could also be 1. Okay, interesting. And of course, this is named after a person. It is a eponym named after Pierre de Fermat. And my webcam program just did an update. I had to close that box. Pierre de Fermat. I assume it's Fermat and not Fermat. They seem French. Doesn't say French. Doesn't say who they were, what they did, when they were alive. None of those things. But I assume the middle 1800s, probably. Okay, it's the last theorem of Fermat. Roar! Next, we have the first form of the word ferment. Ferment. This is a verb from the 14th century, starting with intransitive. Number 1, to undergo fermentation. Right now, maybe my body is fermenting. Ooh, what sort of alcoholic goodness is going to come out of my belly? Number 2, to be in a state of agitation or intense activity. So if you're just working out real hard, then I guess you would be fermenting because you're in a state of agitation. Maybe you're just very agitated. You are fermenting. I don't know if we usually use this for humans. I don't think we do. Or living things? No. I think this is literally some sort of edible substance, a food, a liquid, a whatever, is being agitated and going under this intense chemical activity. So it's fermenting. Transitive, number 1, to cause, to undergo fermentation. So you are fermenting the fruit. You are putting the action. You're making them go through fermentation, which is the next word, or it's coming up. Number 2, to work up as into a state of agitation. And the synonym is foment, which I don't know that word, F-O-M-E-N-T. To work up as into a state of agitation is ferment. Fermentable is an adjective. Lots of fruits are fermentable. I think there are probably other things that are fermentable, but I don't know what they are. Lots of things can be fermented. And we now are going to go roar. The second form of ferment can also be pronounced ferment. In fact, that's the first pronunciation, so it's probably more accurate. This one is the noun ferment. It is from the 15th century, and this is the one that has the etymology for some reason. So, number 1a, a living organism as a yeast that causes fermentation by virtue of its enzymes. It has these certain enzymes, and in certain contexts, in a certain chemical situation, it will be the thing that will cause fermentation. Yeasts seem to be a very common one. Maybe there's other things too. It's a living organism. It is alive. What? Number 2, the synonym is enzyme. No, sorry. 1b, the synonym is enzyme. Now, 2a, a state of unrest, and the synonym is agitation. So maybe there's a city, maybe there's some people who are not liking each other, and they're in a state of unrest with each other. They're very agitated at what the other group is doing. They don't agree. So they are in a state of ferment. 2b, a process of active, often disorderly development. And the example sentence is a quote, "The great period of creative ferment in literature." And that is a quote from William Barrett. The great period of creative ferment in literature. So this was a state, a time where things were developing, but in a disorderly way? Disorderly development. That's a very... What time was William Barrett talking about? And what is disorderly development? It's things are developing and progressing and evolving, but maybe they're going lots of different directions. There's some groups are going that way, and some groups are going the other way. That's a ferment. Okay, so the etymology says this is from Latin fermentum, which means yeast, and there's more at the word barm, B-A-R-M. Now we should talk about fermentation. This is a noun from 1601, fermentation 1A, is a chemical change with effervescence. This chemical change has effervescence, so it's bubbly. And right now my stomach is feeling kind of effervescent. I just burped and I cut it out. So it's bubbly and poofy, and maybe it smells a certain way. It's effervescent. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ways to describe effervescence. And if the chemical change does not have effervescence, then I guess it can't be fermentation. 1B, an enzymatically controlled anaerobic breakdown of an energy-rich compound as a carbohydrate to carbon dioxide and alcohol, or to an organic acid, but broadly, an enzymatically controlled transformation of an organic compound. And how was that different from the first part? The first part is an enzymatically controlled anaerobic breakdown of an energy-rich compound, opposed to an enzymatically controlled transformation of an organic compound. And I don't do anything with the chemistry or the biological sciences, so I can't give you any more information, really. But an example of this process, at least of the first one, is a carbohydrate turning into a carbon dioxide and an alcohol, or just to an organic acid. So this is the process that is, I think, making those alcoholic drinks. Anything that has alcohol in it has gone through fermentation, I guess because you put in the ferment. That's the ferment going into the thing that you're making, and it is possibly a yeast or some sort of enzyme, and that is going to have a chemical reaction with the other stuff that was in there. Maybe this energy-rich compound, or maybe this organic compound or something, and it's going to turn, I guess at least one example, it's going to turn the carbs, the carbohydrates, going to break them down possibly into carbon dioxide. That's the bubbly stuff. And also an alcohol, which is does the carbohydrate have the chemical structure, has a certain chemical structure, and then when it gets broken apart, that chemical structure it's like one part of it is a carbon dioxide and one part of it is an alcohol, and when you put them together, you have a carbohydrate? Is that kind of sort of what it is? I am the worst person to be talking about this, probably. Anyway, lots of alcohols, I guess, or at least some, have that bubbly thing, but most importantly, they have the alcohol. This is a naturally occurring thing. If, like, fruit fall from the tree and then just sit on the ground for a while, this could possibly happen. They've known that animals have been consuming, either on purpose or accidentally, fermented fruit, and they get a little tipsy-topsy, whirvy-squirvy drunk. And and there's the whole thing about, like, the drunk ape or something that we evolved because something about the apes consuming alcohol, and that's why we are the way we are, or that's why we have an affinity towards alcohol or something. I don't know. It's a crazy thing. So, now what else for fermentation? Number 2. The synonym is the number 2 definition for the word ferment, which was just the previous one, I guess. The state of unrest, agitation, maybe it's all that stuff. Okay, well, that was fermentation. Should have had an expert on for that one, but that's okay. I think we got good enough information. Now we will go fermentative. Fermentative. Adjective from 1661. Number 1, causing or producing a substance that causes fermentation. And the example is fermentative organisms. So these organisms will possibly produce a substance that causes fermentation. So would they be producing the yeast that can then cause fermentation? Maybe, possibly. We just gotta read more to find out, maybe? I don't know. Number 2, of, relating to, or produced by fermentation. So the fermentative can be the thing that will create something that could possibly create fermentation. That's the beginning of the process. Or the fermentative can be the thing that came from the fermentation. Either one. How do you know what you're talking about? It's just all about context. Now we have fermenter. Fermenter. Noun from 1918. Number 1, an organism that causes fermentation. So maybe the yeast could be that. Fermenter. Now, I don't see any synonyms here. I would think that ferment or a ferment would be a synonym of this. But in 1918, we said, well, we're just going to call it a fermenter. Number 2 could be spelled with a T-E-R or a T-O-R. And this is, number 2, is an apparatus for carrying out fermentation. I don't know what sort of apparatus that would be, but it is the fermentor. Okay, that's it for that one. I think we're done with all the fermentation words. If you are interested in making your own beers or ciders or wines, you will probably need a fermenter or a ferment, and you will be doing some fermentation. Rawr. My camera is autofocusing, and I thought I told it not to autofocus. Don't autofocus. Okay, next we have Fermi. Fermi or Fermi? F-E-R-M-I. Noun from 1955. A unit of length equal to 10 to the negative 13 centimeter. Why are we using a centimeter in this context? So that would be a dot, the decimal, and then I think 13 zeros, and then a 1. But it's that portion of a centimeter. So if we're converting that to millimeters, I think a millimeter is a tenth of a centimeter. So then it would be 10 to the, would it be 10 to the negative 12th of a millimeter? But if we're doing meters, then it would be, let's see, 10, it would be 10 to the negative 15th meter. I think it's real close. So it's real small. That's what you got to know. A Fermi length is very small. And this word is named after Enrico Fermi, who doesn't say who they did or not who they did, who they were, what they did, when they were alive. It's from 1955. But I do know that that there is a place in Illinois called Fermi Labs, and they are also named after the same dude, Enrico, and they do some science stuff there. I don't really know what they do, but they do some sciencey stuff there. And maybe everything is measured in Fermis. Roar. Next is fermion. It's Fermi with an O-N. Fermion, noun from 1947. A particle, like an electron, proton, or neutron, whose spin quantum number is an odd multiple of 1/2. Compared to boson, B-O-S-O-N. Fermionic is an adjective, so it's just one of those particles that's flying through the air. And recently for work, I went to Geneva, and a coworker of mine and we had a free day, and we went to CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, and they're studying all the particles over there, and they are probably studying Fermis is one of them. There was a tub of liquid that I don't know what exactly the liquid was made out of, but you could see You could see the particles, the trails that were left by all the particles flying through it, and it was fascinating to actually see this in action. And maybe some of them were Fermis. I don't know. I don't understand what an odd multiple of 1/2 is. The spin quantum number is an odd multiple of 1/2. Well, let's put a link in the show notes for Fermion and maybe Enrico Fermi. And we have another Fermi word, maybe a couple of them. No, one more, I think. Fermium, with a U-M at the end. Fermium, noun from 1955, the same year as Fermi the length. This is a radioactive metallic element produced artificially. And how? How artificially? Maybe by bombardment of plutonium with neutrons. So if you smack a whole bunch of plutonium into neutrons, then you would possibly get fermium. I don't think you can try this at home. It says, see the element table. That was when I talked about all the elements, and that was a fun, weird episode. Let's see. It's does it not occur in nature? Fermium? No, doesn't. It's not in nature. I'm just gonna say. Okay, next. Rawr. Fern. F-E-R-N. I'm gonna bring this microphone out a little bit, maybe right to there. Fern. What's a fern? It is a noun from before the 12th century. Ooh, we got one long definition. It is any of a division, and then it has the division name, which is Philicophyta, any of a division, or class Philicopsida, of flowerless, spore-producing vascular plants having alternating sporophyte and gametophyte generations. Especially any of an order, Philicales, of homosporous plants possessing roots, stems, and leaf-like fronds. And it says compare to seed fern. This is fascinating. Fern-like is an adjective, and ferny, F-E-R-N-Y, that is an adjective. Wow, you're looking so ferny today when you are producing alternating sporophyte and gametophyte generations. Let's see. That was a lot of information. Should we put a link in the show notes for fern? Sure. I know a little bit about ferns. They just have leaves. They don't have flowers, and they sort of go up, and maybe they curl around or something, and people really like ferns. And there's a lot. So is it saying that their babies, one generation of their babies are sporophytes, and then the next generation of their babies, or that the babies that they make, are gametophytes? And I don't know what any of that means, but it must be for some reason. Ferns. Okay, now let's go on to fern bar. 2 words. Noun from 1976. A bar or restaurant fashionably decorated with green plants and especially ferns. This one is kind of blowing my mind. This is such a specific thing to be put in the dictionary. A fern bar. Are there really so many bars or restaurants decorated with green plants and especially ferns that there's the term fern bar? I mean, I know that there are restaurants and or bars that have a lot of plants, but ferns specifically? This is so weird. Roar. Fernery is next. Noun from 1840. Number 1, a place or stand where ferns grow. It's where the ferns grow. It's a fernery. Number 2, a collection of growing ferns. Ferns that are growing. If you have a collection of dead ferns, it's not a fernery anymore, I guess. Next is fern seed. 2 words. Noun from 1596. The dust-like asexual spores of ferns, formerly thought to be seeds and believed to make the possessor invisible. Wait, what? Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait, hold the phone. Hold the phone. Back in the day, they thought that the spores of ferns were seeds, which I guess it depends on your definition of a seed, but they're kind of the same thing. And people thought that they would make the one who holds these seeds/spores invisible. I feel like I'm in an alternate dimension right now. Okay, sure. Ferns. Do we need more information? I think we do. Let's put a link in the show notes for fern seed about possibly making you invisible. Maybe? No. Roar, I'm so ferocious. That's the next word. Ferocious. Adjective from 1646. Number 1, exhibiting or given to extreme fierceness and unrestrained violence and brutality. There's an example, a ferocious predator. The predator in the movie Predator, I've only seen the first one, would be considered ferocious, I think. It exhibits much fierceness, and unrestrained violence or brutality. Well, I think it was murdering people and possibly eating people, and so yes, I think that would call that ferocious. Number 2, extreme intense. Wait, no, extremely intense. That makes more sense. As in the example, ferocious heat. That heat is so intense, it is extreme, it is ferocious. This is a ferocious podcast because it has an extreme amount of episodes. A synonym is the word fierce. Fierce. Ferociously is an adverb, and ferociousness is a noun. And do we have etymology? Yes, we do. It's from the Latin ferox, F-E-R-O-X, which literally means fierce looking. If you just look fierce. That would be ferocious. Let's see, from ferus, but there's not really much information there. Ferox is from ferus plus ox, which is like the Greek ops, which means eye. So that's why you're using your eye to look at something that looks fierce. It looks fierce to your eye. So it became ferocious, I guess. Okay. I don't feel ferocious. I feel the opposite of ferocious. What is the opposite of ferocious? Okay, I now need to pick a word of the episode, and the song for that is words of the episode, word of the episode. Oh. Today we had fermata, Fermat's last theorem, ferment, fermentation, fermentative, fermenter, fermi, fermion, fermium, fern, fernbar, fernery, fern seed, and ferocious. Okay, which one? I'm kind of tempted to pick fernbar because I don't understand it. I don't understand fernbar. Are there a lot of bars with ferns? Ferns are great and they're really wonderful, and it's probably nice to sit near them in a bar. I really hope that you don't expect anything more than that. Okay, I'm going to tell you about a couple movies now. Let's see, where have we left off? Oh, finding my little codes. Ooh, we're way up here. Oh, boy. Let's see. The next one is The Haunting in Connecticut. And Sharon didn't remember that we had seen this, and we had seen it, but we watched it again anyway. And it's a 90s. No, it's not 90s at all. It's from the 2009. I think it is. Is it sort of based on a true story? I don't know. I can't remember. But it's about a teenage boy who is having some problems in this new house. Well, he was sick, And then they got this new house, and then some weird stuff happens. Let's see. Then we watched Terrifier 3, and it's the third one, obviously, and a lot of people are terrified, and they go crazy hogwire. I think the second one might be my favorite of these three movies, but it's more bonkers crazy, amazing special effects, fantastic special effects, if you're into that sort of thing. Okay, this is the end of the episode. I think I've talked plenty. And until next time, this is Spencer dispensing information ferociously. Goodbye.